G'day everyone and welcome to the Squirrel Nest. I'm Joel and this is our limited helper. So pre-releases this weekend, which is a sealed format. And then after that, obviously drafting will commence online, hopefully on Magic Arena and at our local gaming stores. So I thought I'd create this just as a quick helper with what removal is there and what combat tricks to look out for. Just to help along the way with if I'm in what color, what cards should I be looking out for and how good are they, especially with regards to combat tricks. Just bring into your mind if an opponent has 2 green left open, what the potential blowouts could be if you attack with your creatures. So we'll start off with removal and then we'll go into combat tricks. And up first is Isolate. Isolate is a 1 white mana instant speed removal that says exile target permanent with converted mana cost 1. This doesn't go in any decks. There are no converted mana cost 1 permanents within M19 that you should really be worried about, especially in a limited format. This doesn't go in any of your decks. It is for constructed and we should just leave it out. After Isolate, we have Luminous Bonds, which is a 3 converted mana cost enchantment, which says enchanted creature can't attack or block. Luminous Bonds is pretty much a pacifism. It is just a pacifism effect that costs one more. It's great. You'll pick them up and they'll be great removal. So for white, that's pretty much the best removal we get, and just especially for the price. So the next removal we have is Take Vengeance, which is 1 in a white that says destroy target tapped creature. The reason Luminous Bonds is better than this, and even though it's 1 more, is that the creature doesn't have to have tapped first. And mostly when creatures are tapping in limited, it's because they've attacked you. You get to destroy them, but they will have hit you first. But still good removal, unconditional. It doesn't matter about power toughness, it just requires them to be tapped, which inevitably will happen. But Vigilance will hurt, and it'll hurt big time when it comes to this spell. And then second lastly actually, because we have a board wipe, but lastly we have Hieromancer's Cage, and that is 3 and a white. It is an enchantment and it says when Hieromancer's Cage enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Hieromancer's Cage leaves the battlefield. That is just an O-ring effect. It's good. It targets anything that's non-land, which includes planeswalkers if your opponent was lucky enough to have one, and it's solid as solid can be. Luminous Bonds is a little bit better because of the 1 mana, and you're not going to come up in a limited format against too many non-land permanents that you want to get rid of. But still great removal, exiles it off the battlefield so indestructible doesn't matter, and that is definitely premium white removal. And then actually lastly, but it's not really something you're going to play that often, which is Cleansing Nova. It is a rare, it's 3 white, and it says, choose 1, destroy all creatures, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So you get to do 1. It's essentially austere command, but with the 2 choices, the 4 choices consolidated into 2, which is destroy all the creatures, and then destroy all artifacts and enchantments, where they're all 4 different choices on austere command. Great removal. It is rare. You're not going to get that many of them. And even if you do get them, if you're ahead on the board and they just have 1 creature that you need to remove, you have to take out your board to do it. Destroying all the artifacts and enchantments won't really matter that much. This is limited, so play cautiously. You really want to make sure that you hold back. Keep your life total high as you can be, make them commit to the board, and then blow it up. But it's just not, it's not great. I mean, for limited, it's just not great. And that's all white's got. It's great. It's got good removal, but there is only a few of it. The good thing is Take Vengeance and Luminous Bonds are at common, and the Hieromancer's Cage is at uncommon. Moving to blue. Blue obviously doesn't have straight out removal. That's not a blue thing. The straight out removal they do have though is an enchantment, which starts us off with Metamorphic Alteration. Actually, sorry, I take that back. It starts off with Dwindle. Dwindle is 2 and a blue, which says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -6/-0, and when that creature blocks, destroy it. So good. It leaves them with up block, but it doesn't leave them with up block cur, which is a big difference, which is great. So you can take out whatever creature you want. They'll block with it once. -6 is pretty much going to ensure that it has no power. So you just need to run something into it, blow it up, and move on. Metamorphic Alteration is the next one up, and it says, enchant creature. As Metamorphic Alteration enters the battlefield, choose a creature. Enchanted creature is a copy of the chosen creature. So not flat out removal, and it's not even that good, and it is rare. But if they have an absolute bomb of a creature, I'm talking a Nicol Bolas, an Arcades, a Chromium, one of the big dragons or anything like that, and you have a small little creature, you can turn that into a copy of it, which will hopefully negate you having to deal with a massive flyer and then turn it into a little ground creature, which you might eventually be able to deal with on the ground. Again, not great removal and probably not what you want to be using this enchantment for, but I did want to flag it as a possible enchantment removal. It's not great, but it is what it is. Next up, we have Disperse. Disperse is 1 and a blue for an instant speed common, which says return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Disperse is pretty much as good as it gets when it comes to an unsummon effect. It's not 1 mana like unsummon, but it also hits everything other than creatures. It hits everything including non-creatures. So essentially, you remove something from the battlefield and hopefully counter it on its way back down, or use it as a tempo swing. You're a little bit more aggressive, make them recast their creature so you can get in with a few of your ground creatures or air creatures, and they just have 1 less blocker. And then on part of removal, or the other part of the board white removal for blue is Totally Lost. And that is a 5 converted mana cost, which is 4 and a blue. Instant speed, put target non-land permanent on top of its library. So you essentially time walk them. They redraw that creature or whatever it is, but let's face it, most of the time it's going to be a creature. And then they have to recast it. It does cost you 5 mana, but it is at instant speed. So if you do want to keep up one of the counter spells that we're going to talk about next, you can. Then if they don't need anything, you don't need to counter anything. You can push a potential blocker to the top of their library so they have to draw it next turn and recast it. Great card, little bit expensive, but it's got a homunculus on it, so can't be that bad. Then we come to our removal suite in the form of counter spells. We have Essence Scatter, which is 1 and a blue. Instant speed, counter target creature spell. Great counter spell, one of the best you're going to find in Limited, only because it's so cheap and it can hit creatures. So in the early game, you can hit a creature if you're on the play on turn 2. Just makes them stumble. And while you're trying to build up your board or build up your mana base, it's not great because it does require you to have the mana up and counter a spell, which can provide tempo to your opponent. And it doesn't affect the board. Once something hits, a counter spell isn't going to help. But as far as counter spell goes in Limited, Essence Scatter is pretty good. Then we have Cancel, which is 1 and 2 blue, so a 3 converted mana cost card, which is counter target spell, which is any spell. But it does have the failing of being 3 converted mana cost, 2 of which is blue. So you can't splash it. It does require you to have a lot of blue, and it does require you to have 3 mana up on their turn. So it's okay late game when you've got nothing else to do with your mana, you're top decking, but early on in the game, it's not something you can rely upon. And if you are relying upon it and the opponent doesn't play anything, you've just lost 3 mana and pretty much an entire turn other than your draw step. So it's not great. And then we have Bone to Ash, which is 2 and 2 blue, so 4 converted mana cost, counter target creature spell, and more importantly, draw a card, or also draw a card. So you get to counter a creature spell like with Essence Scatter, and then you've got a draw card tagged onto it, which is great. It's still expensive. You probably wouldn't want to run more than one of it, or I certainly wouldn't be running more than one of it. But at the very least, as you counter, you get a card back. So it's really, it's not even a 1-for-1 because you get your a card back for it. It just is 4 mana, so it's a little bit mana intensive, but still good. It's a lot better than cancel because the things you care about in limited are going to be mostly creatures. Just remember cancel if you have one in your sideboard and they have a planeswalker or something, a massive bomb that you can't deal with, which is then you can just bring in cancel as a last resort, but it's not something you want to be main decking, I don't think, and I would stay away from it. Your two counter spells in this format for blue will be Burn to Ash and Essence Scatter. So moving on to black. Black is great, as it normally is. It has 5 flat out removal spells. The first one is a 1 black, so 1 converted mana cost spell. It says it's called Infernal Reckoning. It's an instant. It's exile target creature. You gain life. Sorry, exile target colorless creature. You gain life equal to its power. This is not a limited format card. This is for constructed. It's for modern, for Eldrazi hate, Tron hate, lots of hate for constructed. It is not for this limited format. There are no good artifact creatures in this format, and any artifact creatures you can deal with your own creatures. Do not pick this highly unless you want it for value. I don't know what it's worth, or you want one for a deck that you build in, but it's certainly not pickable for a limited. And if it's a sealed pool, just put it aside. It's not something you really want to run. The next one is Nightmare's Thirst, which is 1 black as well. It's an instant speed uncommon, which says you gain 1 life. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. So it's one of those cards which you will have to assume is going to be -1/-1, which is okay. It's 1 converted mana cost. Fungal Infection was okay. It did leave you with a creature, but this gives you the upside of 1 extra life. And if you've gained any more life that turn, it's even better. So it's got a little bit of flexibility, but I would only ever put this in my deck assuming it's a -1/-1. And that's it. That's all you got to say. It's a good... I would put it more in the combat trick. Probably in the combat tricks category. It is removal though, so it is sitting here. But I would probably say it's more of a combat trick. Next up, we have one of the best black removals of all time when it comes to this type of thing. Destroy target creature. Murder. 1 and 2 black. It's back. Murder is back at uncommon. It's 3 converted mana cost, and it's an instant. It is great. You will include this in every deck that you have black in, and you will want at least as many as you can get. There is no downside to murder. The 2 black is a little bit of a mana requirement, but it's destroying a creature flat out. No downside. Pick as many as you can get, unless you have 5. And then maybe think about picking up a creature. But play them. They are awesome. Next up is Strangling Spores, which is 3 and a black. It says instant at common, target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Good, not bad. Very expensive, 4 mana for that effect. It is an effect that's coming at like 1 mana, I believe, 2 mana at times, and here it's 4, but it's still removal. It'll keep a creature alive in combat, just like in Nightmare's Thirst. But sure, play them. They're great. -3/-3 is going to kill a lot of things, and it'll make sure your creatures can kill a lot of things in combat if that's what's necessary. And then last up is Lich's Caress. 3 and 2 black. Destroy target creature. You gain 3 life. Standard, 5 common, 5 mana cost, common removal. Black generally has a lot of them. They normally have a little bit of an upside. In Rivals of Ixalan, we had the one that was 3 and 2 black. You got a treasure or 2 treasures. I forget, Pitiless Plunder. I don't remember what it was called. But a lot of the sets have this type of effect. For black, a creature removal with an upside for 5 mana. This is just M19's version of that. And it's got some cool artwork to boot. On to red. Red is looking really good for this set. We have a lot of really good removal spells. First up is Shock. Shock's back. Shocking. I told you I'd keep puns to a minimum on a previous video. I will keep my word on that one from now on. Shock deals 2 damage to any target. It's an instant speed common for 1 red. It's good. It only is 2 damage, but it does deal damage to a player if you need to finish them off. It will finish off a creature if it's in combat. Shock is just a really, really efficient spell. It's only 1 damage short of Lightning Strike. And Lightning Strike's, or not Lightning Strike, Lightning Bolt. And Lightning Bolt's one of the best removal spells that Red's ever had printed. Or damage spells Red's ever had printed. But speaking of lightning, next up is Lightning Strike, which is a uncommon 1/1 red, 2 converted mana cost, instant speed. Lightning Strike deals 3 damage to any target. It's essentially Lightning Bolt for 1 more mana. It's got the cool Theros, I'm pretty sure that's Theros art with Keranos' hand. It's where I first saw the artwork anyway. It is good. Pick them up. They're great. They do damage to the player. They do damage to a creature. They do damage to a planeswalker. They do damage to everything. And it's only 2 mana. Next up is Electrify. Electrify is back from Amonkhet. It is a 3/1 red, 4 converted mana cost, instant speed. Electrify deals 4 damage to target creature. So not as good as Lightning Strike, definitely not as good as Shock, but it does do 4 damage, and that's a lot more than 3 and definitely more than 2. You probably don't want to run too many of them because it is 4 converted mana cost, but depending on the speed of the format, it was okay in Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation just because of how stupid fast that format was, but still not too bad. Next up is actually, I'm going to skip that one for a second. Next up is Spitflame. Spitflame is a 2/1 red, 3 converted mana cost, instant speed rare, which says Spitfire deals 4 damage to target creature. Similar to Electrify, but there is an upside. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay red. If you do, return it to your hand. This is great. It is rare. You're probably never going to see one. Well, you're certainly not going to see one every draft that you play red in. But hey, if you've got our dragon, you get it twice. It's card advantage on for pretty much free. There's nothing bad about this card. If you see it, pick it up. You can splash it quite easily. Sure. Spitflame, pretty good. Next up is Banefire, which is X red. It is a sorcery speed rare. Banefire deals X damage to any target. If X is 5 or more, this spell can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. This is a finisher. You hopefully won't have to use this to remove a creature, but if you do, it's okay. It allows you to scale. So if there's a creature you can't deal with, you don't have to worry about only being able to do 4 damage to it. It just says if you've got the mana, you can kill anything. And if you've got enough mana, you can kill a player. So if this is a game that's in a board stall, you're at turn 10, turn 11, you've got 8 or 9 mana, this can go straight to the face, and it's good. And then it can't be countered and it can't be prevented. So fogs don't work, counter spells don't work. It's a blue nightmare. Next up is a really expensive card. Fiery Finish. 4/2 red, 6 converted mana cost, sorcery speed. Fiery Finish deals 7 damage to target creature. You're pretty much going to kill everything. Unless it's indestructible, it's dead. But this card is dead in your hand until turn 6. If you've hit your land drops, turn 8, probably more likely. I personally wouldn't be running more than one of this in my deck unless I was really hard up for removal. On the plus side, if it is stuck in your hand, it's got nice artwork. So enjoy it because it's probably going to be there for a while. I don't rate it very highly, especially above Spitflame, Lightning Strike, Shock, Electrify, and Banefire. And then last is 1 converted mana cost, 1 red, Thud, sorcery speed. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Thud deals damage equal to sacrifice creature's power to any target. It's Fling. It's Fling as a sorcery. It's good. It's 1 converted mana cost. So if you've got something that can steal a creature, you can steal the creature from a player and throw it at their face when you've finished with it. It is removal. It's removal and damage. It's possibly 2 removals. You probably want to be throwing their creatures at them rather than yours. But if you're in a board stall, throwing your biggest creature at them might not be the worst thing. It's a way to end way to end the game. But I left it to last because it's one of those things. It can be great or it can be dead. And I don't see it being anything other than those 2 things. That brings us to green. Green has very limited removal, as you can expect. It has Rabid Bite, back from Shadows over Innistrad. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. This isn't fight. The most important thing you have to know about this is not fight. Your creature does its damage to another creature without any repercussions. So you don't need to worry about a combat trick on their part. The worst the combat trick's going to do is save their creature. It's not going to kill yours. Rabid Bite is, if you're in green, a very, very high pick. You definitely want to be running these in green, and it's great. There's nothing more to say about it other than great. The only other piece of removal green has, with a couple of rights, there is a third one, but it's very conditional. It's Vivian's Invocation. It is 7 converted mana cost. Rare. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When a creature is put onto the battlefield this way, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. All I've got to say about this card is you do not want to be relying on it for removal. If you don't hit your bomb card, if you do not hit one of your big cards, you just hit a couple of smaller creatures, it ain't killing anything. It ain't killing anything ever. So yeah, it's one of those things. You have to know your deck. You have to know the likelihood of what you're going to put onto the battlefield is going to affect the game to even consider this removal. Not saying it's not a good card. Actually, I'm not going to say it's a good card because I don't think for limited it is, but it's not the worst. It's just not removal. I know I've put it in removal, but that's because it has a removal clause in it. And other than that, green had nothing essentially other than Rabid Bite. And last up for green is Plummet. Standard green, 1/1 green, instant speed, destroy target creature with flying. Nothing, not bad. Keep it in your sideboard until you can see it got flyers that you can't deal with. But it's very, very conditional, and it's very conditional. That should stay in the sideboard. It's not unplayable, just a sideboard card. Moving on to Colorless. Colorless actually has 2 removal spells. One of them is sweet. I can't wait to see the artwork of the tokens. First up, though, is Explosive Apparatus. It's 1 colorless. It says 3... it's an artifacted common. It's 3, tap, sacrifice Explosive Apparatus. It deals 2 damage to any target. It's a shock for 4 mana. Run it only if you are desperate for some sort of damage-based removal. It's a lot of mana. And more importantly, it takes up a card slot. So, not great. If you're playing that, you really, really, really are desperate for removal. That brings us to the last of the removal. The very last of the removal. Transmogrifying Wand. It's an artifact at rare. It costs 3 converted mana. It's got a 3 converted mana cost. Transmogrifying Wand enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. Pay 1, tap, and remove a charge counter. It destroys any target creature. Its controller creates a 2/4 Ox creature token. Activate this ability only at any time you could cast a sorcery. It's one of those strange ones. It leaves them with a creature. It doesn't remove a creature, but if they've got a big one and you need to get rid of it, it will get rid of it. Never played anything like it. Never will probably play anything like it again. I don't know how to rate this. I don't know how it will play out. But if they've got something big and scary and you need to get rid of it, it will do the job. So, yeah, I don't know. I know it's cool. I can tell you that. Okay, now we have combat tricks. This isn't, I'm not really going to rate them. It's something I want you guys to be aware of when you're attacking or blocking that they may have. So for 2 converted mana cost, if your opponent has white up, they could have Aegis of the Heavens, which is all of these are instants except for the last one. So I'm not going to say instant. I will only say instant. I'll only say the type of the card if it's a sorcery. Aegis of the Heavens. Target creature gets +1/+7 until end of turn. It's kind of okay. I don't think you should really be running it unless you have an Arcades, and that +7 is actually going to be dealing damage, which is a very narrow scope, but it's going to save a creature in combat, so be aware of it if your opponent has them, but it's not going to add too much to their power, so it's not a huge problem. And then also at 1 and a white is Mighty Leap. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. You kind of want to do that before blocks are declared, but it will save a creature in combat. So yeah, they're okay. Just be aware of them. Make a Stand is 2 and a white, which says creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and end of turn. That will stop everything. It's indestructibility. It's 3 converted mana. It's got a 3 converted mana cost though. Just be aware of it's there, but it's not going to do too much. It may just bounce some creatures. Inspired Charge is 2 and 2 white. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. If an opponent is attacking you with multiple creatures with lots of mana up, and you think they probably shouldn't be attacking you, block. Because this will end the game. 3 creatures coming through can do upwards of 9 damage if there are only 1/1s. If they are 2/2s, that is 12 damage. Respect Inspired Charge. I don't know how common it will be. I mean, it is a common, but I don't know how commonly someone will play it. But just when you're blocking, remember that they may have Inspired Charge. Don't just when you're at 6 life say, I'll take 2 and then I'll swing back. Because if they're swinging in and it looks unfavorable, for them, they're probably going to kill you with Inspired Charge. Then last up is a sorcery speed gold card, which is Heroic Reinforcements. 2 red-white. Create 2 1/1 soldier creature tokens. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste. It's not the biggest combat trick because it is sorcery. You will see it coming, but it will give every creature they control haste. It's 4 mana, it's gold, and it's uncommon, so it's probably not likely they've got it. You will see it coming, but you know, they can give their creatures haste, which is something you can kind of watch out for when you're attacking. And you might die on the crackback. Then we come to blue. Blue has, one is called Uncomfortable Chill, which is 2 and a white, instant speed. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-0 until end of turn. Draw a card. Not great, will save you from dying. Does replace itself, which is great. But yeah, it's okay. I don't really think you should be playing this. It's not going to be that good for you. You want to be really, really, really careful with playing this card. Then, it's kind of a combat. I put this in the combat tricks is because you want to play it to get in combat damage. And it's called Sleep. Sleep is 2 and 2 blue sorcery speed, uncommon. Tap all creatures target player controls. Those creatures do not untap during that player's next untap step. Be very, very careful when it comes to this card. Your opponents will tap down all your things. There is nothing you can do about it. But if you've got it, it's great. It will tap down all their creatures. You will get 2 combat steps with everything you have on the board. At that time, anything you play that turn will get in the next turn. They may play a creature. At best, they might play 2 small creatures, but this essentially says, have free reign for 2 turns. It's great. I've put it as a combat trick because you use it to get in combat damage. Sleep is an awesome card. I can't wait to play with it. That brings us to black. Black just has abnormal endurance. 1 and a black, instant speed. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0. Gains when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. I think this was supernatural stamina in Armenket or Arrow Devastation, at least the block of Armenket. Exactly the same thing. It's good. Saves your creature, brings it back to the battlefield. You can do some tricks with it if you can want to get fancy and bring back something with an ETB. But if an opponent is attacking in with a creature that can devastate you if it hits the board again for a second time, and it looks like you can kill it, just be aware if they've got that mana open. You may be playing into a trap. Then we have red. Red again is high on this count. First up, we have Sure Strike. Sure Strike is 1 and a red, instant speed. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike. Sure Strike is an awesome combat trick. I got nothing else to say about it. It's great. It's one of the combat tricks you really want to play. Next up is Crash Through. It's 1 red. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Draw a card. It's sorcery. To me, it just reads 1 red, draw a card. There's not many times where Crash Throughs are really going to be that impactful to the board state. Trumpet Blast is our next one, which is 2 and a red, instant speed. Attacking creatures get +2/+0. The operative word there being attacking creatures. Doesn't say you're attacking creatures, it says attacking creatures. So make sure not to play that on the opponent's attack step. It's only for you. It's only to win the game. Do not use it really just to get in a couple of extra points of damage. Use it to finish the game. And lastly is Tectonic Shift, or lastly for red. Tectonic Rift is 3 and a red. Sorcery, destroy target land. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. Much like Trumpet Blast, you kind of want to use this to end the game, and destroying the land is really pointless. You may use it to take an opponent off splash color, but you should be using this to end the game, making sure their creatures can't block and getting through a board stall or getting through a couple of extra points of damage to kill them. Don't play this just to blow up a land. It'd want to be a freaking good land to be doing that. Then we have green. Green has its normal Titanic growth. 1 and a green, instant speed. Target creature gets +4/+4. It's a common. It's always a common. It's good. Be careful with it. +4/+4 is not a small amount. If it's a double strike creature, that is a lot of damage. And lastly, green has a lure effect. 3 green, 5 converted mana cost. Sorcery speed. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. All creatures able to block it this turn do so. It's one of those ones you have to know when to play. Play it when you're either going to win the game, so all the rest of your board can get through and one creature is going to get through. Or if you really want to get tricky, play it on a Death Toucher. If you've got a Death Toucher and you swing it in, and they've got 3 or 4 creatures, 5 creatures, and you can pump it up. I think there's a Basilisk in this set, which is a 2/2. So if he swings in and that he can kill 5 creatures. With a Death Touch, you only have to assign 1 point of damage to any creature to destroy it. It is great when it comes to a Death Toucher. But it's only +3/+3. It is sorcery speed and it's 5 mana. Use it to end the game. Use it to get your team through. Either put it on a Death Toucher or put it on a creature that you don't care about dying because it's going to die. And that's it. That is all the removal for this set. It's all the combat tricks for the set. I apologize if I've missed one. I hopefully haven't. White, red, and black, obviously the removal specialists. There's some really good ones in blue, being the Dwindle and the Essence Scatter. But yeah, white, black, and red is where it's at. I hope you found this useful. I know I find it useful doing it because all this puts it into my brain. Good luck at the pre-release this week if you're going to be attending. If not, I will see you online and hopefully draft against you. Have a good one. Later, mates.